One of the highest leverage things you could do as a person who wants to go further in life is learn how to learn faster. If you can pick up new skills faster, or learn a foreign language in a matter of months instead of years, or be able to read and process knowledge in more books every week, you'll be able to go further in life and much faster. You might have noticed this, but there's a whole field on learning faster which has recently emerged, and there's gurus out there like Jim Quick teaching it, and it's starting to become much more mainstream. So today I want to share with you 4 simple ways to process and retain information faster. So the first technique is you can use the power of mental spacing. When you space out your learning, instead of trying to cram it all in the night before, like I used to do on my university days right before an exam, I try and study the night before, it never works. You don't retain the info. When I did try and do that, I noticed that several weeks after the exams, I would literally forget half of what I'd learned. And in hindsight, it was just a big waste of time and money. A better way would have been if I had studied consistently the whole time. So this is called mental spacing. There's an author by the name of Benedict Carey, and he wrote this book called How We Learn: The Surprising Truth About When, Where, and Why It Happens. And he found that learning, it's kind of like watering a lawn. You can water the lawn once a week for 90 minutes or 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And he said that spacing out the watering during the week, it's going to keep the lawn greener over time. So he recommended that you should review the information 1 to 2 days after first studying it, and then do it repeatedly over a longer interval. And that way you better retain it. It sends a stronger signal to the brain that it needs to retain the information. So the second technique is do your learning in short chunks of time. Studies were done at the Louisiana State University, and they suggested the optimum chunk of learning time is between 30 to 50 minutes. They found that anything less than 30 minutes wasn't enough, but over 50 minutes, that was too much for your brain to take in at one time. So between each micro learning session, you should also take a 10-minute break. Forget about trying to do these marathon 3+ hour study sessions with no breaks. At a certain point, your brain needs to take a break. So the third technique is take notes by hand. Let's say you're on some learning platform and you're watching videos trying to learn a new skill. I know it's much easier to be typing, but don't do that. Instead, get a pen, get a piece of paper, go old school, and start writing notes. This will help you better retain what you're learning. That physical movement of your handwriting out all the different words, it does something that typing doesn't. You see, typing, it's more just a mindless transcription. It's so easy to be typing something and then you can just open a new tab, get distracted, go down that rabbit hole, and before you know it, you're off track. Researchers at Princeton, they found that when students took notes by hand and they had to reframe what they were learning in their own short form words, they listened more actively and they were able to identify important concepts of what was being taught better. So the fourth technique is pretend you've got to teach someone else. While you're learning something new, if you imagine that you're going to need to teach someone else right after, it's going to help you a lot. When you expect to have an audience listening to your explanations and then asking you questions and testing your knowledge, you're going to take your learning much more seriously because you want to be prepared. You don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. One of the very best things that I ever did for my career, this was about 10 years ago, was to volunteer to teach a weekly webinar. I was involved with this company. It was in the personal development space, and we had a lot of distributors across Australia. And every single week there would be this marketing webinar. And so the person who was doing it, they convinced me to take over, and I thought, okay, it's going to be good for my career. So I said yes. I wasn't getting paid, but that didn't really matter. Having to prepare and show up each week with a lesson, it meant that I took the research part really seriously, because the last thing that I wanted was to be on that webinar live and have someone ask me a question and I didn't know the answer. I didn't want to look stupid. So I took my learning really seriously. Now, by the way, if you're interested in this concept of learning faster, the good news is very soon I'm going to be launching my own skills platform, and that will be one of the skills that we teach. There will be online training. There will also be live seminars. So if you want to know more about that and how you can learn faster, we'll go much deeper than we went in this video. There should be a link somewhere below. Definitely fill out that form. You'll get added to a list and you will be the first to know about when it's ready to go live. Okay, so I hope you get some value out of this, and I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Speak soon.